Hi guys, so just a test video for running Zoom at 1080p. This is going to be tying into Panopto and then edited and uploaded to YouTube rather than doing it separately. I didn't bring the second camera, so this is going to be one of those two camera setups I've done before. Just going to be the one, but more Lego stuff. And this is an update that people might be interested in, is I have actually started collating the older Lego kits. So this is all stuff from my childhood. Yes, I am that old. I am old enough that you notice some of it is using the late 80s, very early 90s designs. So you see the ones where they still said Legoland on them. I'm not quite sure when that was, but that was a branding thing they did for a while. Afterwards, you'll see they then moved over to being the Lego system. Again, not sure exactly when those changed. I'm sure I have to research at some point. So from what I can remember, this would have been 1990-ish, and then these two would have been this one and this one would have been 92, 93, I think. So when did I come back from Saudi? I would have been, yeah, so these would have been somewhere between 92 and 94, and I think this one was about 95-ish from what I can remember. 1995, so this is when they came out. There will be other kits going forwards as well. I'll be honest, I don't have the paperwork with me, so I can't remember what the names of all these ones are, because they do have some slightly obtuse names. Like I think this is one like Sensor Tracker or something. To be honest, they never really gave them names in the literature because it was all relatively language agnostic. Like if you actually look at, let's put that one together as the most interesting looking one. Go to one side. So we're going to do this one today. Yeah, I can go and I'll dig it out at the end as to what the name is for this, but as you can see, they never really bothered actually giving it any form of name or indeed any form of language specific documentation. I mean, literally it's just Legoland, and well, Lego's universal phrase and Legoland is Legoland, and most countries are using Arabic numerals. So there you go. This will be one that's pretty quick. I will do the subject videos for the others because, well, it's 9 o'clock at night, and I just wanted to get at least one of these done this weekend. The other three, I'm going to try and do those with a better camera rig. Well, I'm going to try out the 1080p Logitech StreamCam, and I'm also going to try out the 4K one to see if that makes any difference. I'm aware that Zoom runs at, I think it's 1080p 30 frames a second. I don't think it's running at 60, but this would be a great test for that. So actually, you know what I'm going to do is this one I'll do at 1080p at 30. I'll try the next one in Panopto at 60, and I'll do one of the others at on Zoom, sorry, not Zoom, YouTube at 60 frames a second, just to see what the differences are like. With this kind of thing, it might make a difference, but we'll see. Yeah, so this is, again, I'm using work as an excuse for this to try and set it all up. So let's make sure we got our little man assembled. I thought I'd assembled him, but it looks like his head's popped off. With these ones, yeah, you can see they're because of the, I mean, these are, God, how old am I? These are like 32 years old, roughly. So the heads are a little worn, which is why you got to be careful the head doesn't pop off. This was back when the spacemen just had the diving, diving packs. I know later on we did actually do proper, like, God, I forget what they're called. Proper so the proper sort of booster vehicle systems for them. But this one is literally just a gas tank and a helmet. I'm pretty sure. Also, you see there's a slight discrepancy in the coloring because that is magenta, not red. But you can see the photo; it's red. So I'm assuming that's just going to be some color gradient stuff with the image itself. And as you can see, this is going to be, well, all of 8 stages. Be nice to do this just for the nostalgia, but it's not going to be complicated. So I've also been sorting through all this, which has been a bit of a pain. I'm sure if any of you follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, you'll have seen the mountain of junk, which I'll show at the end, the mountain of junk that's built up in order to get this project going. Just to explain, the project is twofold. One is actually going through all of my old Lego and actually trying to sort it and put it into kits. And the other one, and this is again, this is sort of a time-based incentive for me, is that I'm going to be packing it up into, I'm going to be packing up some of the older, more generic Lego into packs for disadvantaged children. So Dave Friedman, one of my colleagues at work, he and his partner involved in a charity which provide toys for basically disadvantaged children. And you're usually given like a budget and an age group and said, can you just make a box? So what I'm going to be contributing to that this time is going to be basically lots and lots of little bits of Lego. So it's going to be your standard 2x3 bricks mostly, because my family was collecting them, essentially. My understanding is that some of it was salvaged from a dump that my aunt used to run. Some of it is from at least 2 or 3 generations in my family. I mean, it's stuff going back to the 1950s. Unfortunately, we don't have all of it because sometime in the late 90s, my father was helpful and threw away all the fake Lego. It's not fake, it's from the 1950s, which it was probably in poor condition. I don't care, but it does mean that I have far more blue, white, red, and yellow bricks than I have any possible need for. As you can see, even in this point in sort of the 90s, was relatively specialist parts, little flat pieces, and so most of what I have is almost irrelevant to me. I also have a lot of windows and doors and that kind of thing because it was in that period of Lego. Anyway. So also, if you don't remember these kits tended to be the small pocket money kits, which were a little bit more abstract. Now, the modern pocket money kits tend to be more focused in a way. Like I've got a little Guardians of the Galaxy thing, which, it's the Star-Lord's ship. And it looks like a sort of a chibi version of that, a super deformed version of that. Great. Or they seem to be made a bit less abstract than they were in these days, but these were always, especially the space ones, were always a bit like, okay, fine, that's a whatever, I'll go with that, sure. But anyway, let's just throw them together. And biggest problem with getting all sorting it is things like these. So you remember these little bits? So those I had to strip down because you've got 2 bits there. You've got the actual lever and its joint, I suppose. And so I've had to pull those apart in order to make sure they're the right colors. I get the feeling with some of these, if I've lost anything, there's 2 options. One is to go solid and just have a different color. And the other option is to go on one of the Lego collector sites and try and find individual parts, which I may be able to do. I'm not sure how difficult that's going to be. I don't know how much they were reused. Make sure I actually get that on straight, because if he's going to be using a little handle, I don't want to do it at some weird angle. Yeah, I mean, the kind of things it's going to be like, there's this particular, there's a little spring-loaded piece. I'll have to find a photo of it at some point that is missing from one of the other kits. And I know I have 2 of them somewhere. And lost him 1 second. I know I have 2 of them somewhere, because I remember seeing them during sorting and going, I remember what those are for, but I can't find them. So that's going to be the kind of thing I'm going to have to be dealing with. I also have an entire toolbox full of wheels. I don't know how I have so many wheels. I swear I never bought that many vehicles, but I have that many wheels. Let's see. Okay, so looks like they're a little bit less worried about hollows and things than they are in the modern ones. So you can just see there, if I just catch the light on it, that there's a gap and they've just gone, no, just stick that over the front. There you go, that's the engine. And yeah, a couple, and some slightly odd non-standard bits like that. Sort of what. Oh God! Also, please ignore the fact that these were chewed. I was quite young when I got this. I was probably ages 3 of that. I was probably barely old enough to have these when I was given them. So I'm just going to ignore the fact that I chewed them. Anyway, what was I saying? So yeah, these were the old space ones. Well, not okay. If you've seen the ones from the Lego Movie, these aren't those. These are ones after that. Because if you think of Benny, that's the classic space, which is, oh, I've got some somewhere. I think it was late 70s, early 80s. This is when they started having. So the space thing was a bit odd. The space thing, what they ended up doing was sort of having, well, basically they would do factions, and they seem to rotate the factions through, say, every 2 or 3 years. And so if you were a long-term collector, you would, I mean, if you're a long-term collecting child, then you would end up with multiple different bits, multiple different sort of factions if you order them, which seemed to go together. Like there were two, so there was a space police, and then I think there were smugglers, and there were definitely a couple of different types of space pirates. And so you end up in this situation where it all sort of tied together, but they weren't all available at the time. It was a very odd way of doing it. Sometimes you'd get, say, 1 or 2 factions available at the same time, but you'd end up with people with like space police. Who are they fighting? I don't know. The other models that you built. Okay, which ones? Whatever. Which was a little strange. The other thing is that you could see that they were clearly interested. They clearly sort of got focused on particular technologies as well. So these, when translucent plastics came in, and there's some of the other models where it was a very early light gathering plastic. Which, God, you may remember this from like school, where it was a big thing in DT for a while, where you'd have plastic where it would collect light at throughout like the surface area, and then you'd see it glow along the edges. We'll see some of those in the other kits, but you can just see it say here, like this is the kind of thing where if you look at the edge, those are probably a bit tuned up actually, but we'll show those in the next one. But it was something which I remember becoming easily available for like hobby crafts in the 90s, and I remember one of my DT teacher, design technology teacher, being really excited about it and trying to get us to do as much as we could with it. And then I think people realized it was a bit crap and then just stopped. But anyway, so it seems to be that there were specific technologies that they started focusing on. Couple of the types they had holograms, or a couple of space ones that had holograms, and I think there was one where it was based on it could be some kind of sort of like light sensitive holograms. I think it was the idea was that you would it would you'd put a light filter over it and it would change the image. It was supposed to be like some kind of secret code or something. But anyway, that's that one. So this was a nice short video. Please excuse the lighting. This was basically, it got to the end of the day and I just thought I should probably do something with it. I will be, as I said, testing. Part of this was just to test the cameras. I think it's just this particular camera is not as good as some of the later models I have access to. So this is one which I honestly don't even remember if this is from work. I think this may have been salvaged from another project, or it may have been from another employer, or I may have bought it. I honestly don't remember. This was sort of like Logitech's generic one, the C920, I think. Anyway, irrelevant. It's good enough for government work. It's good enough for most things, but for this kind of thing, I think we probably want something a bit more advanced, which is why I'm going to try and remember to bring the Logitech StreamCam with me next time, which is probably going to be more useful. And also there's a 4K one is available as well. We didn't go with that event. We didn't go for that for work because basically because of scaling issues, because 4K doesn't always scale particularly well into 4K doesn't scale well into 1080, no, into 720 unless you are actually running it through a renderer. So we just went out with solid, believe it. But anyway, that's a lot more work stuff than you guys really care about. But there you go. So here's I think he's a communications jammer. Give me 1 second. I'll dig out so from Bricklink, I was able to dig out the information, and I think message decoder was the phrase they used. Now, I have never seen that written down anywhere other than Bricklink, and quite frankly, they're the kind of nerds who I won't want to disagree with, because they produce this, and this is a full inventory of every part. And that's essentially how I remembered how to put this back together. I am truly amazed that all of these parts got through, and I had all of them. Most of these are generic parts, but things like the color-specific dishes and that bit, which is the Black Slope 33 Space Police 1 logo pattern. That's a bit of a mouthful. All of these do have codes as well. You can see they actually have specific codes for them on, which you can just see on this camera. But there we go. That is model number 1. I will be trying to do more of these as I go through. Basically, the intention of the overall project is that once I have built all of the models that I have instructions for, then I could potentially look at inventorying the rest of it. And Bricklink is a good place to work out what else I can build. You can put in your inventory and it spits out what you can build from it. There's a degree of I don't want to, but that is because of the monstrosity that I have in terms of my Lego collection, which, as I said, if you see me on Facebook or Instagram, you will see the nightmare that I'm having to come up against. This project has been going since last December. If any of you guys watched the previous Lego builds, those were done over a lot of those were done over the holiday whilst I was sorting through everything else. So this is sort of the second part of that initial project. And I have reached the point where I need some kind of motivation, and this is it. Well, this and the charity stuff. The charity stuff is actually the major motivation, which will be a way to just dump out all of the extraneous stuff I have for Lego, because I just don't need 300 2x3 red standard red construction bricks. There's nothing I need them that many for. I mean, I could build a whole street of budget condos if I wanted to, but I just don't want to. Yeah, this is more of an interest to me. Is having, I mean, basically this is some nostalgia where I had no idea I had all the parts for this. Genuinely not a sausage, but now I have it. I'd love to have more of the police line, but to be honest, at that point, I suspect this was probably a present at a kid's birthday party. So this was okay, you remember being a kid of that age, so somewhere between like 5 and 9, where you would all go to some kid's birthday and the parents would have to buy the kid a present. And this was in modern money, this would have cost about £5, I think. And that's very much what it was based on, is these were the pocket money ones. And then you got the big bases and things, which were the ones which the parents got for Christmas. So this was little Johnny saves up kind of thing. And all of these are that kind of size. But that's where I think most of these came from. I've got a couple of ones which are Christmas gifts, which I'm not going to show the centerpiece yet, because I don't know if I have all the parts. I may have to actually, that one I wanted to get 100% right, because I have most of the critical parts, but there may be a few bits and pieces which I'm just going to have to buy replacements for. But that's one which I'm going to do a long form video on. That was one which, yeah, not going to give any details yet, because I don't want to give it away to anyone who hasn't actually seen it. But I'm genuinely looking forward to that one, because that was Christmas present I remember being very happy with. But anyway, so this was Tiny Kit number 1. So this, if anyone is interested as a complete nerd, this is Kit 6831 message decoder from the Space Police line, which I believe was Next time I will look up when these were from, but I'm going to say the guess somewhere between about 1988 to about 1992. I think this was when this line was in was being done. Actually thinking about it, the fact it's Legoland branded, there's a possibility I may have actually bought it from Legoland in Denmark, but I don't think so. I distinctly remember that was one of the other models, which you will see in a later one, providing I have all the parts, which I don't. I'm going to have to order those through. Some of the more esoteric ones do tend to go missing, things like the old Lego motorbikes. Anyway, so here is small kit number 1, which I will be uploading if anyone wants to watch, and have fun. I will try and get the other ones done within the week. I mean, I could just do another one now, but as it's 9:20 on a Sunday night, I just don't want to, because I've got to go and sleep in the morning, because it's week 2 of teaching. So may God have mercy on us all for that. Anyway, I will see all of you guys later, and we will go on. I will say what the next one will be. The next one will be this one, which, if I remember the name for that one, that is the Shark Scout, because this was part of their underwater thing, and these were the sharks as opposed to the octopoids. Anyway, that will be the next one, and I'll see you guys then.